As we conclude Chapter 12, it is important to bring together the major concepts that shape how listing agreements function in modern real estate practice. Throughout this chapter, you learn that a listing agreement is far more than a marketing document. It is a legally binding contract grounded in both agency law and contract law. The chapter demonstrated how this agreement forms the foundation of the broker-client relationship, establishes fiduciary duties, authorizes professional services, and outlines the rights, obligations, and liabilities of each party. By looking at legal principles, practical examples, and real Arizona cases, you developed a clearer understanding of why listing agreements must be written, complete, accurate, and fully compliant with statutory and ethical standards. Understanding the legal foundations. The chapter began by reviewing the legal framework of listings. Agency law defines the fiduciary relationship between broker and client, outlining duties such as loyalty, obedience, and disclosure and confidentiality. Contract law determines how listing agreements are created, enforced, and terminated. You learn that listings may be unilateral or bilateral, depending on the type. Open listings being unilateral, exclusive listings being bilateral. You also discovered that oral listings may be legally valid in some states, but rarely enforceable, especially regarding commission disputes. These foundational principles ensure that both parties understand their authority, their obligations, and the enforceability of the agreement. Performance, fulfillment, and termination. Next, you studied how listings are fulfilled or terminated. Fulfillment occurs when the broker performs the specified objective, such as securing a ready, willing, and able buyer. Several examples illustrated the broker's responsibility to verify property condition, ownership, and seller authority. You learned why due diligence protects both the broker and the seller from liability, and how delegation within a brokerage operates legally. The chapter then explored various causes for termination, including performance, abandonment, lapse of time, mutual rescission, revocation, incapacity, and breach. Real Arizona cases demonstrated practical application, such as what happens when a seller dies, when property is destroyed, or when a seller attempts to unilaterally cancel a listing. These real-world examples reinforced how the law protects contracts, preserves fairness, and prevents commission avoidance. Listing agreement clauses. The chapter's most extensive section focused on the clauses that make a listing enforceable. You explored the core structure of an exclusive right-to-sell listing, including identification of legal owners, property description, listing price, expiration date, and commission terms. You studied detailed clause analysis covering seller disclosures, MLS authorization, dual agency, personal property inclusion, fixture disputes, compensation terms, protection periods, and seller obligations regarding insurance, SPDS/RLOPDS, lead-based paint, flood hazard zones, and FIRPTA. These clauses were illustrated through Arizona scenarios ranging from pool fencing obligations to fair housing violations to FIRPTA withholding. You learned how a well-constructed agreement prevents misunderstandings and provides legal protection for all parties. Buyer-broker and transaction brokerage agreements. You also learned that similar clause structures exist within exclusive buyer-broker agreements, with differences relating to buyer representation, competing buyer acknowledgments, and alternative compensation arrangements. Transaction brokerage agreements were explained as a non-agency model, where the broker acts as a neutral facilitator instead of a fiduciary representative. Understanding these distinctions helps real estate professionals recognize the appropriate relationship model for different situations and consumer needs. Practical and ethical considerations. Throughout the chapter, emphasis was placed on ethical conduct, compliance with fair housing laws, and the broker's responsibility to avoid legal, tax, or financial advice beyond their expertise. You learned how improper disclosures, discriminatory practices, or unauthorized legal explanations can expose agents to disciplinary action. The chapter reinforced that when uncertain, agents must direct clients to licensed professionals, such as attorneys, tax advisors, and insurance experts. Review Summary. Chapter 12 provided a comprehensive exploration of listing agreements, explaining how they operate at the intersection of agency law, contract law, and professional practice. You learned the legal structure of listings, how brokers earn compensation, the meaning of procuring cause, the rules governing termination, and the essential clauses that make agreements enforceable. You explored exclusive seller agreements, exclusive buyer agreements, and transaction brokerage agreements, gaining an understanding of how each relationship differs in duties and legal implications. You reviewed practical examples that demonstrated the consequences of non-compliance, misrepresentation, and discriminatory conduct. By mastering these principles, you now possess the knowledge necessary to draft, explain, and manage listing agreements with the professionalism and legal awareness required in today's real estate industry. Discussion with answers. Why does contract completeness matter so much in listing agreements? Answer: because anything omitted is presumed not to exist, which may invalidate commissions, cause disputes, or weaken enforceability. How does the concept of procuring cause impact commission disputes? Answer: it determines which agent first introduced or induced the buyer to complete the transaction, establishing who legally earned compensation. Why must agents avoid offering tax, legal, or structural advice? Answer: because doing so exceeds the scope of a real estate license and can create liability. Clients must be referred to proper professionals. How do listing clauses protect both the broker and the seller? Answer: by defining responsibilities, clarifying terms, preventing misunderstandings, and creating enforceable boundaries around rights and obligations. Closing remarks. Chapter 12 is one of the most critical chapters in the entire real estate curriculum because listing agreements form the foundation of professional representation. Mastering these agreements ensures that you can enter every listing appointment with confidence, clarity, and legal awareness. Your ability to explain these terms to clients sets you apart as a knowledgeable, ethical, and competent real estate professional. As you move forward to the next chapter, keep in mind that every successful real estate transaction begins with a well-crafted, well-understood listing agreement. The more precise and professional your agreements are, the smoother your transactions will be, and the more protected your clients will feel throughout the entire process.